I was doing that and then going to hustle like trapper studio, sessions to like make $100 that night so I could put money in my car. Like I wasn't getting paid, I was spending my own money and I was still happy doing it. You know what I mean? Which like, I feel like that combo of things is what kind of led me to the next thing. Yeah, it was a long, hard road, like, and it's still a grind. You know what I mean? And it will continue to be a grind forever. Like, but I chose this. Like, this is what I wanted to do. Nobody forced me to be here.
BlxckMonopoly presents Dope Dialogue.
What's good? You're now tuning in to Dope Dialogue presented by BlxckMonopoly. And on this episode, we got a legend, jack of all trades, and he's a master of all of them pretty much. We got Leandro Hidalgo. How you feeling, bro?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Cool, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. Like, we've known each other for years, and it's dope that we finally get to sit here and document part of your life because your journey is crazy, and it's dope to see you level up. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Smooth. So hit the listeners with who you are, what makes you you, like where you're from, and a taste of what it was like growing up.
I'm born in Brazil, raised in Miami, and I've been out here in LA for about 8 years now, so a little bit of a culture pot, you know what I mean? Growing up in Brazil, there's a lot of different influences. Going to Miami, a lot of different influences, Jamaicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just a big old pot of culture, and I wasn't even aware of it, but now that I'm here, I'm thankful for it.
Got you. So like, what did that exposure give to you as a kid, like, and even growing up now?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think I realized it then, I felt like it was just normal for me, but like, I grew up, I used to like break dance, and like, I used to, go to like parties that were like dance hall parties, and like, I'd go to like parties that were all reggaeton parties, and like, just being able to experience it from the source, you know what I mean, at a young age, just pretty much living it, just gave me like, I feel like diversity and being able to kind of adapt to multiple cultures, and also seeing how they all kind of cross over, and I think that kind of actually benefited me in a lot of ways.
Got you. So what pulled you into creating music, and also, just involving yourself in music overall, because you don't just do one thing?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just happened naturally. Again, like, I've never really tried to do this. My musical transition really kind of started when I was in middle school. I got put in this like intensive reading class, which I didn't need. And, I just, because I didn't want to be there, didn't do anything. So they kicked me out of the class. They put me in band. And, the teacher of the band was like, hey man, like, handed me some drumsticks. He just sit in the corner. Don't fuck with anything,
For sure.
And, am I allowed to curse?
No, of course, you good.
Okay, all right, my bad. I didn't know if I was allowed to curse.
Nah, you good.
But yeah, that kind of started it, and from there, it just, there was one guy, his name was Marlon, and he was just like the nastiest drummer I've ever seen in my life. And I was just like, damn, that's crazy as fuck. Like, I want to learn how to do that. And so I learned how to drum from him, and then, being around everything else, and, all the other instruments, because we was like a orchestra or a symphonic band. For sure. So we had all kinds of instruments, and being able to be around it kind of gave me the bug. And then when I went to high school, it transitioned into like bands, and then like, doing like sampled music on an MPC and stuff like that, and yeah, that's kind of where it started.
Got you. So you were tapped into music and creating music early on. You're talking about going from physical drums and instruments, MPC, and now using software.
Yep.
Got you. So you see it from a whole different lens.
Yeah, I mean, my first beat making thing was an MPC 1000, a little blue and red one. And the coolest thing about it was you didn't have to like, all you needed was like a power outlet, and you could just pop headphones on and plug it into it and just chop samples up right on it. Like, you didn't need like a computer and all this extra shit. You could just do everything in that one little box. It was cool too, because like the limitations actually allow you to be more creative.
How so?
I feel like you're not thinking about everything so much, It's like, I know this is all I got to work with, so I got to do something with it, Whereas like on the computer, I literally have everything. Anything I want. I can go on Splice. There's literally hundreds of thousands of samples. Like, how do you decide,
For sure.
It's like a hard part about making music.
Got you. Wait, so real quick before the next question, how do you said it's like, it's abundance of samples and just instruments and things you could use. How do you tone that down in your mind?
I mean, I think that also just kind of depends on you. You gotta just trust your gut and just, If you like something, you like it. Don't let, what's going on right now kind of like fool you into thinking like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that,
For sure.
Because there's too many options out there.
Of course. So like in your interview with Sound on Sound magazine, you made it clear that it's your job as, the mixer to keep the magic alive. You view music as an energy bubble. It's alive and it can be killed by a mixer if they're not on point. So I already know you see music on a spiritual level. What are some techniques you use to enhance the magic that was captured during recording? And also, how do you sharpen your ear?
That's tough. I feel like closing your eyes is a big part of it, Like you have to disconnect from like the actual visual part of what you're doing. Especially like people get carried away, I feel like, with like plugins and like it might have not even needed anything. They just kind of felt like, oh, this is what I want to do because like this is what I do to, whatever drums or whatever the case may be every time. So I'm going to do it. But if you just close your eyes and you just like actually listen and like get deep into what like is coming out of the speakers, it might actually change your perspective. Like you might actually not have to do half of that shit and it might actually sound better. So like for me, I think that's a big part of it, disconnecting like the visual from like the auditory. And then also like, sharpening your skills is just listen to everything else everybody's doing, I listen to a lot of music and I'll close my eyes again and like get deep into like what's going on in the music. And like sometimes if I like a song enough, I'll go listen to the instrumental just to hear how, the instruments might be having a conversation without the vocals sitting on top of it, And that kind of sharpens your ears as well, because when you go to do it yourself, then you kind of already have somewhat of like a foundation to base your actions off of.
Got you.
Yeah.
So then at that point, like when you listening to music and soaking it up and studying it, do the speakers matter, or can you still do the same thing from, your iPhone or from, regular computer speakers?
I mean, if you're comparing an iPhone to a pair of speakers, it's going to be a little different.
For sure.
Obviously, like the better the speakers, the bigger the experience is, right? If you're at an IMAX theater, it's like a huge experience. If you're watching a movie on earbuds, it's
For sure.
not as big, but can you do it? Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, like, I feel like our goal here is to allow a feeling to come through these headphones, So if the feeling's not in the headphones, you've already kind of lost. Like, you got to go back to square one. You know what I mean? Like, the feeling has to be there before anything else. Like, the sonics and the song and all that have to give you a certain feeling that'll come through an iPhone, earpods, small speakers, Bluetooth speakers, big speakers,
Got you. So it's the feeling cool, because when you were explaining that, I thought it was like your brain, because you know how our brains could kind of fill in gaps.
Yeah.
So I figured like, all right, it's like your brain could trick us and color in these sounds and different frequencies that's not there. But
I mean, your brain does trick you a lot.
For sure.
And like your eyes take precedence over your ears, I feel like. So sometimes I have a plugin on like my master bus when I'm mixing that'll allow me to listen to like the demo or like my mix or like any other song. Sometimes you'll think you're making like an EQ move, like you'll see the EQ, you're working on the EQ, you're dipping it or whatever, and you're like, oh, I hear that. It's too much. I got to bring it back a little bit, only to find out you weren't even listening to it at all.
Gotcha.
And you're like actually listening to the demo,
Damn.
So like your brain does fuck with you a lot. You kind of have to avoid certain traps,
Got you. Do you want to share that plugin, or is that like top secret one?
No, Metric AB.
Okay.
Yeah,
Metric
it just
AB.
allows you to like put 9 songs in like, different little slots. And I use it to kind of play DJ, when I'm listening to a song I'm working on, I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is eventually going to live in a playlist amongst other songs, whether it be a DJ or Apple Music.
For sure.
When it's in rotation, all these songs give you a feeling, make you feel some type of way. When mine comes on, it has to enhance that. It can't like dip below. You know what I mean? It can't be like, oh man, everything was exciting and then your song came on, it was kind of flat and boring,
For sure.
It has to enhance the experience. So I use that plugin just to bounce around a lot and then kind of come back to mine and be like, oh, okay, cool, I'm there. Or if I'm not, it'll give me a direct, like immediate response on like what's missing. If my 808 isn't hitting as hard, like I'll know as soon as I flick back to my song. You know what I mean?
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. So it's like cross-referencing. All right, smooth. So you went to Full Sail University in 2011. Do you feel attending Full Sail was necessary to get you to where you are today?
I mean, I'm going to say no, just because I don't want anybody who feels like they don't have the means to go to somewhere like Full Sail can't make it, I got lucky. I got, a ton of scholarships. My Full Sail experience, I only went for a year. I only got my associates there. I didn't get like a bachelor's or anything. My Full Sail experience was not as expensive as some others, But yeah, I think it helped, but I don't think it was like, mandatory. I think that if you go scrub toilets at a studio, and learn from some really talented people, you can acquire the same amount of knowledge. After I left Full Sail, I went to go do that, to continue my, education and learning from people who are actually making careers out of it,
For sure. And that's a perfect segue to the next question, because after attending Full Sail, you interned at Alexis Records with Rico Love. So like, what's some of the gems you soaked up from that experience?
Yeah, so Alexis was actually different than Rico. So Alexis was like just like this little random ass studio that they were just building, and like I went in completely just not knowing what the hell was going on, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of, experiment a little bit without having such high risk, because if you don't know shit and you go work for Beyonce and you fuck something up, you're never working for Beyonce ever again. You know what I mean? Like, and if anybody ever asks Beyonce about you, they're gonna be like, not the guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you kind of have to go experiment a little bit with a lower risk, maybe a local artist who, if you fuck up and delete his take or whatever, it's not the end of the world. You still have an opportunity to continue growing and like learning without staining your reputation. You know what I'm saying? But and then the Rico thing, that was afterwards, and I kind of have already had like a little bit of experience, which was nice because I came in there as an intern, but there would be times where I'd have to jump in and out as like an engineer, and because I already had that experience from before, it led me to, be successful with the Rico camp, which allowed me to learn so much more outside of just engineering. There was 5 producers in the room every day. I got to sit behind them and watch how they made music on a daily basis. And then all that music got funneled to Rico. I got to sit here and listen to how he picks beats. I got to sit here and listen how he comes up with melodies, I would sit in the back of the room coming up with melodies in my head. He would walk in the booth, record melodies, and I'd be like, damn, his shit's so much better than mine,
For sure.
Sharpens your tools, So I was glad that I had the experience that, led me to have a good relationship with the Rico camp, which, I learned so much from.
For sure. So it's like there's no shortcuts. You got to take your licks. You got to learn those.
You gotta learn
the bottom
man.
lessons, for real.
You have to, bro. Like, you can't. Yo, can you cut that off for me, bro? I'm sorry. This shit's
all good.
It's getting cold as fuck in here.
For sure. It's all good. I'm gonna cut it anyways. I'm gonna cut it. Well, matter of fact, we might let it roll. Depends on how you feel.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck, bro.
Smooth.
Yeah,
It's gonna be the rawest interview.
Raw is good, man. People
sure.
want raw, bro. Like,
Of
people don't
course.
want this, like,
For sure.
perfect shit no more. I feel like
It's still recording, right? Let me see.
it looks like it.
Yeah, the numbers moving up.
Yep.
Smooth. All right, cool. We good. All right, but yeah, so it's like you took your bumps and bruises. Like you started off at that studio where it's local artists, and you were able to sharpen up and make mistakes.
Yep.
Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to go straight from their bedroom to, with their favorite artists, but they ain't ready.
Well, I mean, bro, not only that, but like I feel like the new generation of kids, because like social media is so big and they see all this like over the top shit, people wearing Amiri hats and Amiri jeans and all this shit, I didn't get paid when I was working for Rico. Like the only money, Rico would pull up to the studio $100,000 in cash. I wouldn't get $20 for gas money. You know what I'm saying? Like I was doing that and then going to hustle like Trapper Studio, sessions to like make $100 that night so I could put money in my car so that I could go get Rico's fucking Giuseppe shoes from the mall or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? I did it happily. Like I was happy doing it. That's the craziest part. Like I wasn't getting paid. I was spending my own money and I was still happy doing it. You know what I mean? Which like, I feel like that combo of things is what kind of led me to the next thing. You know what I mean? And in the next one, and the next one, and the next one, having that type of mentality where a lot of people turn down good opportunities because there's no money in it.
For sure.
Even when that whole, who was it, Glorilla was offering somebody like $500 a week or something like that.
For sure.
Bro, do you know how many people you gonna meet? You know what I'm saying? Do you know the opportunity that you truly have? You're gonna travel, you're gonna meet people, you're gonna learn about the industry. You're actually gonna be learning from people that are in it, that have the experience on what it takes to actually have a career in this industry, how to have longevity. You know what I mean? You're gonna learn from other people's mistakes. That's a huge form of pay. And not only that, but if you have a good relationship with this person, you got somebody to call on forever.
For sure.
Anybody I've ever worked with, I can call them and be like, hey, I need some advice. This came up, what should I do? they have 30 years in the game. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't I do that? You know what I mean? So it's like a lifelong mentor, and you complain about not making enough money. Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I feel like if the situation is right, the opportunity is right, the payment, the biggest money you're going to get out of it comes in the future, not even the shit that you're getting right now. You know?
Big facts.
And I lived that, you know? Even when I was working with Pensado, like, I wasn't really getting paid like that. He would throw me, okay, my bad.
We're going to get there. You're moving too fast, too quick.
My bad.
Too quick, but you can finish that point for sure. Like, you wasn't getting paid like that. You was just...
He would throw me projects.
For sure.
Side shit.
For sure.
He would make sure that I had a little money coming in here and there.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But like, bro, I was barely making money. I had to hustle outside of this shit. You know what I mean? I had to do whatever it took.
For sure.
To be able to stay in that situation. You know what I mean? For almost a year and a half, which led me to bigger things. But if I, for that year and a half, only complained about not being able to pay my rent, or I don't like where I'm living, or whatever the case is, I would have never got to the next step. You know what I mean?
I think that's what separates people from their goals and actually achieving them. Like, so a lot of people don't see the invaluable opportunity just because it's not tied to like monetary things. You know what I mean? Like, you're having the chance to soak up all this game and you love it. Like, you don't care about, you know, like you said, you wasn't getting paid. You're using your own money to move around and stuff.
Yep.
So, but in turn, that allows you to build up those relationships that you never know you're gonna need until later.
But that changed, you know, because now you got 19-year-olds that are popping on YouTube or
for sure
Instagram, making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the internet exaggerates a lot of things as well. So now you're thinking to yourself, am I really gonna go fucking clean toilets and pick this person's food up for no money?
For sure.
Probably not. You know what I mean?
Ain't it crazy how, like, as we get older, we start sounding like the older generation? It's like, that's that entitlement that younger generation has, just because
100%.
They see it on IG, they see it on YouTube. It's like, nah, why would I go do that when my
Well, there's some validity to it too, right?
For sure.
You know, like, I don't know if I would recommend anybody today to do what I've done. You know what I mean? Like, even when I was doing it, I don't know if I'd recommend anybody to do it. You know what I mean? Because, like, yeah, it was a long, hard road, like, and it's still a grind. You know what I mean? And it will continue to be a grind forever. Like, but I chose this. Like, this is what I wanted to do. Nobody forced me to be here. You know what I mean? Like, I could go pick up a phone and do TikToks if I want to and try to be TikTok famous. You know, I think I could be successful at whatever I set my mind to. And there'd probably be more monetary value in doing that. You know what I mean? But I feel like I'm providing something to the world
for sure
through this music that a TikToker, you know, might not be. You know, if I was a TikToker, I might not be providing the same value. You know, there are great TikTokers out there that do nothing but provide value, you know, but for me, I feel like this is where I want it to be, you know? So it's like, yeah, nowadays you can, for sure, pick up a phone and go do whatever you want, you know what I mean? You could also scrub toilets for, you know, a legend and fucking learn and be the next legend after him, you know?
Sure. That's facts.
It's all about what you want.
Either way, you gotta take your licks though, because even like, I don't know, I think it wouldn't hurt to recommend your road to somebody else, because you were able to build up these valuable connections. Like, people that you worked with, for example, like you worked with, like, you were able to soak up game from Rico before, but look at where you are now. So like, since he's been in the industry that long, there's probably people around him that you have access to, because he's seen you grown. Like, it's validation to be like, oh yeah, I remember Dro when he was.
Well, I mean, I got a perfect example of that. Wizkid's last album is featuring Shensia, right?
For sure.
A person who manages Shensia, Dizzy, used to manage, or however he was involved with the whole Rico camp and Rico Love's manager. And like back then, this is 10 years ago, he was grinding. You know what I mean? Now he's doing great, you know, and has some super fire artists, producers, all kinds of stuff. So here I am 10 minutes later, Wiz's camp saying, or P2J saying, hey man, like, it'd be sick to put like a female on here. I say, yo, I know Shensia's manager. I could just call her up right now. Let's try it out. She goes, does a pass on it, snaps, you know, goes absolutely bananas on it, sends it back. Everybody loves it. Done deal. Easy, you know what I mean?
For sure.
I could have never done that if I didn't have that relationship from 10 years ago.
For sure.
You know? And that was the first time I've ever called him to ask him for anything. Like, I've never needed, you know what I mean? I never, like, called him to be like, hey, man, like, let's do this, let's do that, you know?
For sure.
It's crazy.
See, smooth. All right, so in 2014, you made that move out to LA from Florida, from like Miami. And, you know, what was that part of your journey like? Like, did you know anybody before you come out here? Did you already have connects from people you knew?
No, I didn't.
You come out here solo?
I just came out here solo, man. One of my boys, he came out here. My brother lived here for a little bit, but he was living in New York when I came here. And one of my boys, he had come out here and he was like, man, I'm gonna try it out. And then he came out here and he was like, bro, you would love it. He's like, you have to come. And so I just got to a point where I felt like I wouldn't be able to, live my life and not answer that question of what if I would have went. You know what I mean? I could always come back, but I can never look back and be like, damn, what if I would have went? So I packed my bags and I came, bro. I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know if I was gonna stay. I barely had any money. I think I might have had like $500 or something. I stayed in like a hostel type house where it was like 3-bedroom house. There's 12 people in the house. It was 2 bunk beds in each room. So like literally all you doing in there is sleeping. You know what I mean? Like I'm sleeping, waking up, getting my shit, getting out. But it was fun. I didn't know anybody here. I could have done whatever the fuck I wanted to, and I started to work at this place called Record Plant, which, started it all for me here in LA.
See, perfect segue right here, man. So after moving to LA, you started working at Record Plant, and then you got to study a legend, Dave Pensado. So what was that like? And also, what did life look like for you at that time? Because, you got your footing and you're at Record Plant. So try to, explain what it was like soaking up the gems from him, but also what was regular life like for you.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I didn't even have my footing. Like, I was out here trying to figure it out, you know what I mean? And Record Plant was like a minimum wage situation. And like back then, minimum wage isn't what it is today, you know what I mean? So it was tough, but again, another chance for me to just be around a lot of people, which pretty much everybody I work with today somehow stemmed from Record Plant, you know what I mean? So it was a good opportunity for me to be there. But yeah, I was there for probably like a year and a half or something like that. And Rose Mancherney was the person who was running the studio at the time. And there was like an event I got emailed, and it was like, oh, like raffle for like your chance to go to this like private, like LA, music event or whatever. It's not open to the public. And so I was like, okay, cool. Where is it? And it's at Larrabee Studios. Rose, or she like, I guess was like the mentor for Amy, who used to be the manager at Larrabee Studios. So I said, hey, Rose, any chance you could get me on this list? She said, yeah, cool, got you, no problem. Got me on the list. I showed up. Everybody in there is like Grammy award winning, like platinum, this, that. I'm a runner at a studio, you know what I mean? Like I don't got shit under my belt. And so I'm just like over there just soaking it all up. At the end of it, I saw Dave kind of kicking to the side, and everybody was kind of talking to him. I just waited. Once everybody was done, I walked up to him and I was just like, hey man, I just want to let you know that the stuff you put online taught me a lot, which allowed me to go do like these like trapper rapper sessions, which paid me a little bit of money, which kept me afloat, you know what I mean, to keep moving forward. So I just wanted to say thank you. And that kind of kickstarted our conversation. He got my number, eventually invited me to the studio. I came by a couple times, and then eventually he asked me, he said, hey man, I'm in need of an assistant. I would love for you to come, work with me. And then I did, and I was with him for probably like a year and a half. And I left Record Plant to go do that. So I actually never made it out of the runner position at Record Plant either.
That's pretty smooth.
I assisted a couple sessions, but I never made it out of the position, before I left, which I'm kind of proud of. I don't know why.
That's super dope, man. That's super dope. It's like you're tapped in spiritually. Like, have you always been, because like the way you painted that, it's kind of like everything was in line for you by just following yourself, following your gut, that voice in your head. So like, did you always have that as a kid, or is that something you developed as you got older?
I mean, I feel like that's something that just always develops, but I definitely had the seed planted in me, of like follow your heart and like trust your gut.
For sure.
From like my parents at a young age, my mom especially.
For sure.
She was very like free spirited, and she like always pushed me to like do what I wanted to do and like, go live your dreams,
For sure.
and like try, So,
sure.
I mean, now looking back, I could easily paint the path, and say, yeah, this is exactly the series of events. We could call it fate, right? But back then, boy, I was stressing. I didn't know that shit was coming. You know what I mean? I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen.
Sure.
I didn't know who knew who or what piece of the puzzle I could put together,
Sure.
But I just kept going, and then these pieces of the puzzle started showing up, and I was like, oh, look, there's a connection here. I could do this, and I could do that, And then even after I left, Dave Pensado, being able to utilize his name to get into bigger rooms and connect other dots is what kind of continued to lead me to work with Brody, which led me to work with Wizkid, and like, it's people give you a little bit more of a chance when you're associated to someone who's already doing big things,
Gotcha.
Which gave me the opportunity to like show my worth,
For sure. So then, you mentioned Brody Brown too. So like, are these like from studying these people, are you learning more so technical things, or are you like just playing with that yourself, learning it yourself, and you're more so learning how the industry and the world works through them, or is it
You know,
both?
it's funny. I've like everybody I've worked with has never been super technical, and I've never really gotten super technical with my stuff either. You know, like I told you before, man, I'd rather just close my eyes and just feel it than to be worrying about what EQ is gonna do what. And it's good to know like, oh, the tonal characteristics of this, but like you can not know shit, try everything, and you'll eventually get to the point where you'll be like, I remember I used this one time and I was fighting with it because it was a little too bright. But sometimes something be a little dark and you'll be like, oh shit, you remember that one time that thing was a little too bright? Maybe it'll work for this. And you'll start to gain those things. You don't have to have someone tell you this prestigious old school vintage plugin that models this or whatever. Like usually the people that argue about that shit, in my opinion, spend more time arguing about what plugins they're using or what compressors they're using or whatever the case is than actually making songs.
For sure.
And I've never wanted to be that guy. You know what I mean? I'd rather be the guy making 100 songs that the EQ could have been a little bit better, but damn, it felt so good, than the guy who was like, oh wow, this is pristine, but it's got no feeling in it, and like the song kind of sucks.
For sure.
So that's why I just kind of try to keep myself away from being super technical, But it's funny because some of my friends might tell you that I'm technical, and I don't think so at all. It's hilarious.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you got to be a little bit, because like, so what do you use to like learn the technical stuff? Like,
I mean, define the technical stuff,
like let's say like, all right, to learning like how to actually use EQ or compressors or these different tools.
Fuck with it.
YouTube and just fucking with it, or do you just?
Bro, honestly, just keep fucking with it until it feels right, until it sounds right. Be honest with yourself, you know what I mean? Like, use the metric A/B thing to flip back and forth between your songs and other people's songs. You know what I mean? If you like are your biggest critic and you are just honest with yourself, you'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. Like this vocal, might sound cool to me right now, but when I go compare it, like, damn, their vocal sounds so good. I'm gonna go back and work on my shit. I'm not gonna tell you like, oh, but they recorded in a bedroom and they didn't use this, beautiful mic and this beautiful. Who cares, man? You know what I mean? Like, this is what you got. Make the best of it. Because that's what I had to do my whole life, man. I just had to make the best of what I had, and it led me to then go work with people who do have the best mics and do have the best studios and do have the best equipment. You know what I mean? And then you don't have to worry about none of that because you made the best of what you have so far. Now the best is here. You don't really got to do shit with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, a great vocal doesn't have to be like uber compressed and like uber EQ'd, It's a great vocal. It's a great performance as it lived, All you got to do is kind of touch it up a little bit, clean it up, Make space for it in the mix, like move some instruments out the way, Not necessarily like go crazy and use 20 plugins from 1902 and that's going to make it better,
For sure.
Doesn't make sense.
For sure, got you. So like, one of the major gems on your resume is working with Wizkid. So like, how did you guys meet, and also how did you guys lock in professionally? Like, what was it about that connection when you guys first met that led to being, developing a professional relationship?
Yeah. So like at that point, I wasn't producing any Afrobeat music, and I wasn't really even like really up to speed on it at all either, But when I did meet him, it was at Record Plant. They needed an engineer. They even told me his name was Wiz the Kid. So I'm driving over there looking up on Google who Wiz the Kid is, and I can't find nothing. And I'm like, damn, I have no idea what's going on. So like I literally walked in just completely just dry. I had no idea what it was, Cool, meet him, whatever. He starts playing some stuff, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, damn, this kind of sounds a little familiar to me because of my Brazilian roots, right? A lot of the patterns and a lot of like the percussion, heavy drums, heavy. If you go to Brazil, man, like in like their parties, their festivals and shit like that, it's the same thing. It's like heavy drums, you know what I mean? Like it's heavy percussion elements, and it really comes from Africa.
For sure.
But I wasn't even hip to that. So kind of working with Wiz and like doing it for so long and having these conversations with him, I started to learn about my own culture. Started to learn where all this stuff came from and like things that I didn't even know what they were, why they were like that in the first place, Yeah, and then when I started pretty much just hearing all this stuff, I was still kind of at the tail end of working with Pensado, so like I knew how things could go from not sounding so great to sounding like amazing, because Dave is obviously the GOAT. And then I started listening to this music that had so much feeling in it, but just didn't have, you know, like the level of sonics that you would say like an industry standard would be here in America, you know? And so I really got super interested in it. And, you know, Wiz and I started talking about it. You know, he kept calling me back to come work with him. And, you know, me and him started talking about how he wants to make himself sound and like his goals and like what he's looking to get through the music, which was all about the feeling, you know, and all about that. And so my job was more so, how do I take this and enhance it without changing it, without losing what makes it special? You know what I mean? Which was a journey. And we tried and tried and tried and tried until we figured it out, you know, and it wasn't the smoothest path, you know.
For sure.
There's a lot of trying, a lot of trial and error, a lot of failing, you know, involved with it. A lot of Wiz being like, nah, bro, this ain't it. And me getting frustrated as hell, you know, thinking that I know the best because I was with Dave Pensado. How the fuck you gonna tell me any different? You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I didn't say that. I suppressed my ego and I just kept pushing until I, you know, pleased him, until he was like, yo, this is it. And then looking back on it, I'm like, damn, he was right. You know what I mean? I was sucking all the life out of it, just making it shiny.
For sure.
You know what I mean? He pushed me to keep the life on it and make it shiny. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So obviously I owe a lot to him as well. You know, he gave me a big opportunity and allowed me to like develop my skills as well as, you know, prove myself at the same time. So it was cool. Yeah, it was dope.
So you don't got to give the whole, you know, recipe, like the Krabby Patty formula or anything, but like, what's one key component to bringing that genre of music alive? Like, make sure you maintain and not restore, but maintain that feeling and enhance it.
I mean, I wish there was a Krabby Patty formula I could give you, because I probably would have marketed it and sold it 100 million times by now, you know?
For sure.
But unfortunately, there's not, man. Like, every song is made differently. Everything is, you know, recorded in a different place with different equipment, different, you know, whatever, different producers, different DAWs, you know, like everything just sounds so different. So I kind of just have to take it on like a song, you know, song by song kind of basis. And I know this is going to sound crazy and like, you know, it's like, oh man, like tell us the sauce, bro. But like the sauce is close your eyes and figure it the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like there's no like way around it. Like I wish there was like, oh, yo, if you use this plugin, like it would help. I could tell you like, okay, cool. Like if I have a vocal that's not super dynamic, I'll use like an LA2A compressor. Or if I have one that's like super dynamic, I need it to be a little more aggressive, I'll use an 1176. Cool. Every song's different. You know what I mean? Sometimes I might have to use one on the hook, one on the verse. You know what I mean? There's not like a one thing that makes it good, you know? It's really just about what is the outcome of this? That little MP3, when I press play on it, does it give me what I need? You know what I mean? And also, when I go play, let's say, Dua Lipa, an international superstar, or Bad Bunny, an international superstar, or Drake, you know what I mean? Amongst this song, how does it feel? I need my shit to go up, not down, you know? That's what I focus on. Like, I make sure that I giving myself the real information of what's going on out in the world, you know? I go to the clubs and I listen to songs and I say, man, that one song, as soon as they put that song on, the party went crazy. I'll remember that song, come back to the studio, put it in my Metric AB, and then compare it to the song that I'm working on. If my shit don't feel the way that song felt, because I know when I was tipsy at that club and shit turned up when that song came up, I need my song to give everybody that same feeling, you know?
For sure.
So like it's like a mental note. Come back, compare it to your shit, be honest with yourself about it. You know, 99% of the time, if you're wholeheartedly honest with yourself, you're gonna realize, okay, cool, I need to work on this a little more, you know? And that direct comparison to something will let you know what you need to work on, whether it's your bass, your vocals, your drums, your music. Does the song suck at all? You know what I mean? Like, generally, if you're honest with yourself, that'll give you the answers you're looking for.
Got you. So everybody come to Joe to get that sound right. That's like a double play, you know? So like, it's dope seeing your journey, because like, it's like now seeing your reach is global. So, you know, you work with artists in America, Africa, and also the UK. So what was it like working with UK legends and, you know, like Skepta, KSI, Dave, and Stormzy? How did you land those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, the first one started with Wiz. It was, well, actually P2J, you know. I met P2J through working with Wiz, and then P2J produced a song for Dave that was featuring Wiz. I did the song, then they ended up giving me the whole album, which then led to the album being successful, and then other people kind of finding out, and then people being like, oh, who mixed it? which led me to doing, other work in London, which caught the attention of, Stormzy's camp. Same thing. They gave me one song, ended up giving me a couple other ones. I ended up doing, I think, like 70% of the album. Now I'm working on some other big ones out there that I can't talk about just yet, but they'll be crazy. Soon come. Yeah, which is dope, man. I don't do any marketing, no advertising. My whole advertisement is word of mouth. I want people to go talk about it because they're excited about it, not because they're paid to do so. And that formula has worked for me. But it took a while, you know what I mean? I had to make sure that the stuff that I was doing was worth talking about, and that it was worth being brought up in a room full of, legendary people or whatever the case may be, So these are legendary artists, man. Like Stormzy, like I never in a million years thought I'd work on his album, I was just a fan of it, like Dave as well. Like I listened
Skepta
to
too.
Bro, Skepta, like, the day I met Skepta, I thought he wanted to murder me. And then like an hour into the session, he's like very serious dude. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning when he pulled up, like everybody was tired, and then like we were working and like I did one thing and like he was like, yo bro, like that shit was fire, fam. He like just turned up and he was just like super cool and shit, like I actually get to meet these people and like hang out a little bit, which is cool, and like get the actual Wizkid, man, like I can't thank him enough because like he's actually, from being around him and his friends and shit like that, like I get to actually soak up the culture, you know what I mean? Like, what are you guys listening to when you're hanging out? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like, what are you working on? Like, I'm actually getting to experience it. Like, they were making me eat their jollof rice and like, their big fish and, like all kinds of shit, which like you kind of need, you know what I mean? Like, it's part of the culture.
For sure.
So, yeah.
And it's like you're building real camaraderie with these people. It's not like, transactional. You're eating with them. You're sharing laughs. Like you're
some more than others.
Visions. For sure.
It's a balance.
For
you
sure.
know? Like with certain one of them, I haven't even like talked directly to them. Which is cool. That's how you want to run it. You know what I mean? All good, no problem. Eventually, every single one of them just want to hit me up and be like, yo, bro, let's just work directly because this telephone game is too much. You know what I mean? There's too many people involved in between the middle. So that's how I prefer to work too.
Got you.
Yeah.
And you also bring a lot more to the table because you don't just engineer. Like you produce, you write, you wear all these different hats. It's literally like watching somebody who has a trade because you can go anywhere and bring value to people through music.
Yeah.
So how do you does you being able to produce music and, do the full spectrum, does that enhance what you do as an engineer? Or is it kind of like when you put on that hat, it's just more so tunnel vision on that thing?
I've always looked to just add value. You know what I mean? I've always felt that adding value to like whatever people had going on was like the first way to be in the door. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what leads you to learn and stuff like that. So like for me, it's always been about adding value. I'd never really started my career off thinking like, I want to be an engineer and like I want to be the best engineer. I just got presented with an opportunity that engineering would enhance everything else that I was doing. So I said, okay, cool, I want to learn this. You know what I mean? Then I had the opportunity to be around amazing writers through engineering. So I got to see how they make their music. Producers, same thing. I got to soak up that. And I've always made music. So for me, I've always come at it from a, this is what I'm creating standpoint, not necessarily this is someone else's creation that I'm enhancing standpoint, So when it comes to mixing records, because I produce records and I've sent records out to get mixed and it comes back completely different than what I've sent out, I respect what I get a lot because I think about it, these are all top tier producers and, engineers and all these people that are working on this. Why would they spend all this time working on this for me only to change it completely? My job is to enhance it, you know what I mean? Not change it. So yeah, being a producer helps the standpoint of being a mixer, having a little bit of experience in songwriting helps being a producer, you know what I mean? Like everything I feel like plays hand in hand. And like when I get into a room, it's easier for me to just provide value to whatever the missing gap is. You know what I mean? Gotcha. If I'm producing a beat and the artist is struggling a little bit, there's no problem for me to just jump on the mic. They might not like anything I did, which is totally fine because there's no ego in the room, right? But I might have did something that inspired something else that they're gonna do, which might be even doper.
Sure.
But if I would have never did that, that would have never happened. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to fill the gaps, I'm not like super pushy about it. You know, I don't go into sessions and be like, I'm producing, writing this whole shit by myself.
For sure.
Then you know, it's like, bro,
sure.
whatever it is. If there's another producer there, let's cook up. You know what I mean? If there's another writer there and they need some help, hey, you need some ideas? No, you're good? All right, cool, no problem. You know what I mean? If it's fire, it's fire. I don't care. The only thing that matters, man, is that little MP3 at the end of the day. You know, because that's all that people are buying and people are listening to. Like, nobody's soaking in the process or, you know, listening to the song 100 million times to fall in love with it the way that you did. You know what I mean? It's just for them, that little MP3. That's all that matters. And it's really that little MP3 being listened to for the first time. That's the hook. You know what I mean? If it's amazing, it's going to stick. If not, cool. Next little MP3, you know?
For sure.
It's fucked, man.
That's pretty dope, man. It's like, just being able to document part of your journey is super dope to see how when somebody's like on their path, like you're on your path, it's kind of like you live life differently. You're constantly growing, like you're constantly expanding your skill in the craft that you have, but then it's also allowing you to experience life a whole different way. Like you get to try new foods, travel the world, like learn more about yourself and your culture, where you come from. So do you ever just, how do you feel daily now, like knowing where you came from and where you're gonna go?
Yeah.
Do you wake up and be like, damn, is it a dream? Or do you wake up centered and knowing, all right, this is what I'm doing, I'm chilling?
I mean, honestly, bro, I've just, you know, always been like a grateful person for like what I've had and, you know, the experiences that I've been able to have, even when I was living in that, you know, 3-bedroom house with 12 people. Like, dude, it was a great experience.
For sure.
And like, you know, there's a lot of it that sucked, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it was a great experience, you know, and like I wouldn't change that for the world. So like, it's not the monetary value for me. It's not about, you know, how much money is it. For me, it's just about like how much experience that I get out of these situations, you know, and like I consistently remind myself how, you know, lucky I am to even have ended up to a point now where I get to live, you know, a life making money off of music and being able to support my family off of it, you know what I mean? Making my own schedule, being able to decide the things that I want to do and what I don't want to do, working on projects that I really truly love and being able to turn down projects that I don't, you know? But the thing is that like, it kind of has always been that way, you know? Like if back in the day I was only doing projects that I didn't love, I would have probably still been doing projects today that I didn't love. So I had to take that sacrifice and go find things that I thought, bro, 6 years ago, nobody cared. In America, if I would have said Wizkid, everybody would be like, who? You know what I mean? There's very few people who said that. I fell in love with it. I didn't care where that shit was going to go. If it was only going to be the biggest thing in Africa, that's fine. Like for me, it added value to my life. You know what I mean? And so now it's the biggest thing. Everybody in America loves it. Everybody knows who Wizkid is. That's amazing for me. You know what I mean? Like I love that. But it wasn't like, man, if this doesn't work here in America, like I'm never going to work on this Afrobeat shit ever again. Like I could care less, you know what I mean? I'd still be working on it. Like, these are some of the most amazing artists, the most amazing producers, some of the most talented people I've ever met in my life, you know, and they inspire me in so many different ways that even when I'm working on American music, the things that I got out of them help, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So yeah, I don't ever really like take it for granted. Like I'm super grateful, but I also know the work that I put in to get here. I also know that only I will ever know that, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The countless hours that I haven't slept, you know, like even like me and my girl have been together throughout the whole journey. There would be times where I'd come home, she was leaving, I didn't get to see her, you know, for weeks at a time it'd be like that, you know, for the times where me and her would be on a date that she waited, you know, 2 weeks to go on, and then in the middle of the date I get a call saying, hey, we're going to the studio, we'll be there 30 minutes or whatever the case is, and I have to leave to go to the studio, you know? So like nobody will ever see that, you know?
Sure.
People only see like, oh yeah, man, it's working out. That's so great, you know? But it's been a long journey, man. And you know, I've done a lot to get here, and like it keeps me level-headed to, you know like, okay, cool, like this is really a blessing to, you know, be here. Because not everybody that gets to have it, you know?
For sure. Damn, that's that trade-off, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I got a couple more questions. Only a couple more.
Take your time.
Like, all right, so anyone in the creative and entertainment field know what it feels like to feel lost and slept on. How do you pull yourself out of those negative spaces and focus to, you know, to where you are today? And do you still ever feel lost and slept on?
I think I'll forever feel slept on because I feel like my bar just keeps going up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like after I complete like what my last previous goal was, that I'd be like, oh, they sleeping on me. And then like I just realized that I could go even further, and I'm like, man, they still sleeping on me, you know?
For real.
But at the same time, I like use that as motivation, you know? Like I'm not a person that like stress doesn't depress me. You know what I mean? Like I like use it to like get on my shit and like, you know, do what I got to do and make sure that like, okay, cool, I'm doing XYZ, you know what I mean, the right way, because like the stress that this situation brings, I'm not going to just like shy away from it and go crawl on, you know, under my bed sheets and cry about it all night, you know? So like for me, like I kind of welcome it a little bit more, you know? Yeah, I mean, I just try to just keep going, just keep using the motivation, just keep building and just keep letting, you know, one thing happen and, you know, one thing leads to another and here I am.
Got you. So how do you flip that stress switch? Is it like a mental thing or is it something that you learn like as a kid, just being in situations and being like, all right, it's not even something you think about, you just channel that energy into producing something?
I think it's just realizing that no matter what happens, stress is just a natural part of life, you know? Like I think personally that like the stress that a billionaire is having is the same stress that, you know, per person might be having, or the same stress that I might be having, you know what I mean? For them, it just might be $100 million, you know what I mean? For me, it might be something different, but the stress is the same, you know? So no matter where you go, the stress will for always be there. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, what are you gonna do? Not learn how to deal with it, you know? And like, not let it benefit you, or acknowledge the fact that it'll forever be there, forever be a part of your life, no matter how successful you are in the different areas of your life, and learn how to utilize it and learn how to like manage it and deal with it to use it to your advantage, you know?
For sure.
That's just my outlook on it though, you know? I feel like it's not the easiest one to have, but I feel like after years and years of going through shit, you kind of start to learn how to deal with it a little bit better, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. And you just started a new journey. You a dad.
Yep.
You had your son last year.
Yep.
What's that experience like? What have you learned through that? And also, what's it like having an extension of you in the physical?
Honestly, man, it's the craziest thing in the world. It's so dope. Like, I was like afraid of having children, but now that I have a kid, I'm like, damn, man, like I should have had one of these sooner.
Man, that's wild.
Dude, it's like so great. You know, it's like pure joy and just like, I mean, obviously there's, you know, ups and downs with kids, you know, like you're sleeping kind of gets a little fucked up, but I've been used to it, you know what I mean? But overall, it just brings so much joy into my life, motivates me as well. You know, like the days that I used to sit around and be like, oh man, you know, like I don't really feel like doing anything today, like or whatever, and I might succumb to that feeling, like that never happens anymore because like I know that I have a kid who's looking at me every day, you know, and like my moves are teaching him things. Because the craziest thing about a kid to me, man, is that like they're really a blank hard drive, you know, and like a computer, you start installing all these plugins and all these like, you know, applications or whatever and extensions and all this stuff. That's the same thing, like with them, you know what I mean? Like a bookmark might be an experience to them, you know?
That's crazy, for real.
Yeah, for sure. And like something that they'll always go back to. Like I have childhood memories. Those are like bookmarks for me, you know what I mean? Things that made me happy or whatever. And like, you know, I feel like also you can only teach them so much verbally. You have to show them, you know? So like as much as it pains me to not be able to be with him 24 hours a day, I also have to show him how to be, you know, a man to take care of his family through doing it, not by telling him like, hey, this is what you got to do, you know? I'm going to show him every day, like, yo, I got up, I worked, you know what I mean? I worked hard, you know, I was respectful, I was, you know, honest, I did the right things, you know what I'm saying? And it led me to good results so that he could repeat those values and, you know, hopefully repeat, you know, the same things in his life. Hopefully more, you know, they're supposed to be better than us.
For sure. Supposed to multiply whatever you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
But no, man, it's the blessing that keeps on giving. Until that, I've heard until they reach teenagers, you know.
And it's another journey.
I'll figure that out when I get there.
For sure. That's pretty dope how you put that too. So in a sense, it's kind of like what you do in music is kind of like what you're doing in fatherhood. Like there's this life, and your job is to enhance it, not to put yourself in it, not to control it. It's to, you know, do the things you can to enhance that.
100%. Yeah, and I mean, you know, they're all going to have their own experiences, and they're going to be their own people.
For sure.
You know, like, I don't want to raise him to be somebody he's not, you know what I mean? Just let him experience the world, and wherever his interests fall and stuff like that, you know, I'll support those. And, you know, along the way, he'll use the things he learned from me to be able to manage those interests of his, you know?
For sure.
And, I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do, you know?
Hell yeah. All right, I'm gonna sneak one more question in there.
Go for it.
So for people who, you know, wanna follow your footsteps and, you know, be engineers or through all the different pieces that you do as well, how do you structure yourself business wise? Because like I'm pretty sure there's people who are just doing it, but they're not doing it in the right way to where they could work with a label or just navigate through taxes. So how do you structure yourself and make sure you cover yourself in a professional way?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I had to do everything myself, and as I grew and as things grew, it became a little easier. So like obviously like I have like a CPA who does all my shit, and like I don't have to worry about that. I have a manager who deals with the business side of things and I don't have to worry about it as much, instead of having to go call 100 people and deal with all these things and work on all these projects. He does it. We just communicate between me and him. Everything is seamless, it works. It's much more fluid, but that comes after, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I think the biggest thing about doing it in the beginning is just about keeping everything as simple as possible. Like for me, like I had the same car for the longest time. Like I didn't want to add any expenses. Like, the music game is tough because like if you're just a producer as well, you either going to have to hustle to go sell $500 beats or $100 beats or whatever so that you can pay your rent every month, or you're going to have to take a shitty pub deal because you don't have enough cuts to get that pub deal, or you're going to have to learn how to engineer to go get some day rates, but then you're going to have to make sure that you're not over exhausting your engineering shit and not producing because your goal is to produce in the first place,
Sure.
So it's like, it's tough, making sure that the financial side of everything works. And again, I think everybody's situation is different. But I think that if you truly want it bad enough, you'll figure it out. You'll find ways to be able to do everything. And that might mean working a job, man, which is totally cool. I feel like too many people online shit on that, you know what I mean? Honest work is not nothing to shit on, you know what I mean? Like people going to work to pay for their bills is an amazing thing. It's what you do with that time afterwards, I look at my days as 3 8-hour blocks. Those blocks might shift around a little bit. So I might sleep 6 hours. That gave me a little 2 extra hours to put somewhere. I might work for 10 hours. So now I got that 8-hour block to go do something else. You know what I mean? What am I going to do in that time? And if I'm trying to get my career started, I personally, bro, like I've still spent 12 to 15 hours in the studio a day. And it's not because, like I'm doing the most or whatever the case is. It's because I'll make some beats here, whatever the case may be. I'll go work on a mix or whatever the case may be. I'll come back to, working on, or an artist might come through to a session or a writer might come through. Things change all the time and are moving. Next thing I know, 15 hours gone by or whatever the case may be, So that's how I know how to manage my blocks. I try to give a little bit of time to family, a little time to work, a little time to sleep and recover. You know what I mean? So I just think that if you really, truly, truly want it, bro, like you're going to figure it out. You can work 8 hours a day, sleep 8 hours a day, and then go hustle 8 hours a day. And you'll get more results than the person who is just out here bullshitting or, trying to do too much on one end and not chasing their dreams on the other,
For sure.
It's tough.
All right, man. Yeah, for us, that's the whole
tough.
thing. Might need to get like a part 2 later on in the future.
Yeah, part 2 on the way.
For sure. So,
we could be here all day, man.
I know, but that's why I'm like, all right, I know I had you for like an hour now. So
yeah, no, all good, man, all good.
So hit people with like where to follow you and where to find you.
Yeah, my Instagram is where'sdro. I'm pretty much just, on Instagram. My website is soundrightmusic.com. We update it all the time. Outside of that, I don't really use Twitter or TikTok or nothing, If you need to get in touch with me, find someone who knows me, and I'm sure you'll get in touch with me,
For sure.
But, yeah.
Smooth, man. I definitely appreciate you definitely giving your time. I appreciate the value you gave, how present you are, and yeah, man, I'm excited to see how much higher you go, how much more ceilings you bust through. So I don't know, bro. It's super dope. It's dope watching
Thank
your
you,
journey.
man. I appreciate it, bro.
For sure.
We're going to bust through a lot more ceilings, I'll tell you that much.
Sure. That's it, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. With that, dope dialogue, BlxckMonopoly. We out.
Peace.